This podcast is brought to you by Mrs. Thamer, our former vice principal. Middle school is a cringy time for everyone, but for those of us who faced that phase in private school, in a class of the same 10 to 12 kids we'd been stuck with 5 days a week since age 3, well, it's enough to make me, at least, cringe so hard that I could practically lick my kneecaps. Thankfully, though, I had Mrs. Thamer to provide some discipline to safeguard me from the hordes of starch-collared preteens, and more importantly, some perspective to protect me from my own inflated ego. Perhaps most critically of all, though, Mrs. Thamer taught by example the balance between strict and silly, earnest and absurd, productivity and play. Years after retiring, she still provides her former students with not only an example of self-reliance and work ethic, but also a reminder to smile more and make time to admire the landscape of life rather than just mining it for resources. Mrs. Thamer, molding humanity for the better since, well, for as long as I can remember.
Welcome to Little, Middle, and Biggle. I'm your middle brother, Joshua.
I'm your little brother, Andrew.
And I'm your biggle brother, Noah.
And we are the ones who will try our best to answer the little, middle, and biggle questions we all have in life. This time, for the first time, coming to you from 3 separate states, because I have since moved off to medical school, and Andrew is still at home in Amarillo, and Noah is still at his home in Tennessee. So forgive any weird audio jumps. It's probably just because of the delay between us all being, hundreds of miles apart.
We should all try and say something at the same time.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity.
And it has to be the first thing that comes to mind, too. The first word that comes to mind.
I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, but like slower. And after 1, we'll all say the first thing that comes to our mind. So it'll be like 3, 2, 1, and then a word.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Sphincter.
Monkeys.
Andrew, I thought for sure you'd go for wiener.
I'm looking at my little gold, or maybe it's pewter monkey that used to be Noah's, but now I have him on my desk and he's holding a space shuttle and it's awesome.
Oh, well, I'm very relieved that you weren't just looking at your wiener because.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, great. Let's start off with Andrew with a little question.
Okay, so this question actually comes from Uncle Bentley, and he brought it up while we were on our trip to Colorado. What is the singular of applause? And I'm going to let you guys answer this first, because I feel like my answer is a little bit of a,
Okay.
Because you've had time to think about this, and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we were sitting at the lunch table, and we had, like, the conversation had completely moved on, and I was like, wait, the singular of applause is just this thing. So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have an answer locked and loaded, but I would like to hear Noah's first.
Oh, man. Joshua, you're going to have a good answer because this is your kind of thing, and Andrew, you've had time to think about it. Applause? An applaw? I don't know. Applaw.
That was my first thought, too.
Which doesn't sound right at all, but...
Okay, so for whatever reason, my first instinct was to say applesauce. I have no idea why that I thought that would be the singular of applause. I guess, some words get shorter when you pluralize them, like octopus to octopi, so I thought applesauce, applause. Because, you just cut out a syllable. But no, I think that the singular of applause is clap.
Yeah, see, that's my answer too.
Okay.
But the argument against this that I could see is that, in other countries they like stomp their feet instead of clapping does that still count as applause?
You know, I think so. Being the literature nerd that I am, whenever I read the word applause, I think that in most cultures that would be interpreted as hand clapping, and like
Mm-hmm.
the majority of writers, maybe this is just me being super Occidentocentric, but I think that most writers, because
Great word.
that might not even be a word. But I mean, I was just kind of going for very Western culture centric.
Okay.
Like Occidental, Western, as opposed to Oriental, Eastern.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, actually.
Nice.
There are also words for Northern and Southern, and I cannot remember for the life of me what they are, but I know about them because in reading Lord of the Rings in Spanish, for whatever reason, instead of just saying Northern or Southern, they used like the super fancy, I think one of them might be meridional, which also is a very Western-centric term, because like if that means midline, oh gosh, you guys make me want to look this up, but I don't want to have typing noises that I have to edit out.
Oh, I already had a tiny bit of typing noises. Sorry, I was looking up what the plural form of, or the singular form of applause was.
Oh, cheater!
Well, after the answer, I was just had to see if there was like an actual answer to it.
Did you come across anything?
It's no, just people debating it online and being like, there isn't one. Someone's like, well, there has to be. That was what the top 3 Google search results showed, at least.
Nice. Yeah. So anyway, that was all to say, I think that no matter what culture you're writing from, if you presume that the majority of your readers will be in a Western-esque culture where the clapping is the norm, like if you say applause, you're going to have to recognize that your readers' expectations are that. You know? Like if I were writing... Yeah. Also, in other languages, it's kind of a moot point because, like, I don't know of any English-speaking cultures, I should say, where stomping is the norm for applause. So, like, if it's not an English-speaking culture, they're going to have their own words for it. And, like, applause probably, their word for applause will not sound like a pluralized noun.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there you go, Uncle Bentley.
Yep. What was
We've
Uncle
totally
Bentley's
answered
answer?
the question.
I'm not sure he had one or if he was just doing his Uncle Bentley, messing with these small brains thing.
Yeah, and he's like, while you guys were thinking all about that, I figured out cold fusion. Just so yeah. Great. Yep. Okay, unless anyone has anything else to add on that, I will take us away with the middle question. Any final thoughts?
Negative.
Nope.
Okay. In that case, the middle question for today is, what are some little changes that you've made to your lives that have had a big impact on your quality of life? Either positive or negative. All of mine are positive. But there you go. I'll go first because I think this is something that is probably, going to take a bit of time to think through. So, for me, the things in no particular order are, one, that I have begun using an actual alarm clock instead of my phone for an alarm clock, because now my whole day is not bookended by 5 minutes of me staring at my phone screen. Like, I can put my phone away hours before I go to bed. Just flick on my alarm switch. And then when I wake up, I can, take my morning multivitamin, drink some coffee, write for, an hour before I ever even touch my phone. Before I ever even, look at my phone and I'm consciously aware of my phone's existence. And that is just beautiful to me. And second thing is using women's deodorant. It is a life changer. My brothers, let me preach unto you the glories of women's deodorant. So, for years, since high school, I have thought why do all of the guy deodorants smell so bad? Like, they always smell to me like the smell you get when... It smells to me like, those scented trash bags?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it smells to me like, kind of like those, where it's like, we recognize that there is something very, very stinky going on right now. We just want to give an odor so pungent that it is obvious that it is covered up, but you know that it is covered up, and you don't care that there is the stink underneath. Or even if you do notice the stink underneath, like, you are grateful that there is something else pounding your olfactory nerves so that it can, like, mute out the background stench. But
Yeah.
so, like, whenever I smell someone wearing men's deodorant, I always just think, like, they are giving off this sort of impression of, like, I'm really stinky. I want you to know that I'm aware of that, and I've taken action to that effect. So, yeah, women's deodorant. It doesn't just make you smell not bad, it makes you smell good. And it's like, there is literally zero difference in the active ingredient. For some brands of women's deodorant, because I have looked into this, I have stood in the women's deodorant aisle of Target and spent like 20 minutes flipping over the deodorant canisters, sticks, and checking the active ingredient. There is very occasionally even more of the active ingredient in the women's deodorant. So, like, it makes you sweat less and it makes you smell better. It's just like, why didn't they market this to men also? So yeah, I've been going around smelling like a vanilla soft serve ice cream cone for about 6 months now. And let me tell you,
Nice.
I'm never going back.
That's pretty awesome. But really, it's all just a conspiracy to get guys to buy cologne. Because otherwise, there's no way we would put this man perfume on ourselves. Have you guys ever used cologne? I never have.
Never in my life. Yeah.
That would be a good... Actually, that would have been a terrible little question. Have you guys ever used cologne? Nope. All right, well...
Moving on.
Middle question.
Yep. Okay, so who wants to go next? Who else has something that has caused a positive or negative change in their quality of life?
I can go.
Go for it.
Can just break the trend of always going last on every question. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, so like, especially, this kind of ties into the phones thing, but have you guys heard the term doom scrolling?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The term what?
Doom scrolling.
Is that just where, like, you scroll and scroll and scroll because that's what the algorithms want you to do?
It's not just that. It's like specifically, you're just like looking through bad news.
Yeah.
Oh.
And your brain is kind of, tricked into continuing to do it even more so, even though it's unpleasant, because you're supposed to like seek out threats.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, bad news. Oh no, someone, like kidnapped a baby in, Canada and that's a danger, that's a threat. And, whatever. You doom scroll and you doom scroll. And yeah, I just have like stopped doing that. That's the first thing that comes to mind, at least, is like, I'll give myself, like, if I like, see a video or an article about something that I want to read and it's like bad news, it's not that I just ignore it, but I'll read and I go, okay. And then I go do something else. Like, I don't just go, oh man, and then like follow the next link or like scroll one more page down or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like, doing that kind of puts things into context a little bit better, instead of it being this constant barrage of bad news that just kind of puts you in like a bad mood. You're just like, oh man, that is a bad thing that is going on in the world. And then you go like just exist and get to like digest, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The world isn't that bad.
So
but,
how do you...
good to know about these things. Go ahead.
You first, Joshua.
So how do you like implement that in your daily life? How do you know when you need to like when you've hit an article that you need to just like go stand up and take your dog for a walk if you still had a dog.
I mean, I think a lot of it's more, it's like if I'm sitting on my phone, I just try to, limit the amount of time that I spend on there, unless it's, if I'm responding to a bunch of text messages or emails or whatever, like actively conversing with like a person or doing something that is, actively productive. But otherwise, I've just kind of been trying to train my brain to just have a very low threshold for you've been just scrolling around on your phone too much. And I still feel like I can do it less. But there's like a low threshold already, and then as soon as I hit any sort of like negative news article or something, then it's like, okay, like alarm bells go off a little bit. Like, this, not a bad thing to read if it's, well written and has some information you don't know. But then, like, don't fall down this swirling toilet bowl. It's
So what I would very, very strongly advocate for is deleting all of the news apps off your phone, never going on the Internet Explorer homepage, and
I don't even
listen to NPR.
Yeah, Andrew, you still use Internet Explorer?
No, I've switched to Google Chrome. That was more for like the grandparents.
Oh, okay, thanks. I appreciate you keeping this a multi-generational podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. Also,
it's
for
now
all
called Microsoft Edge, actually.
Oh yeah. If any of you MySpace users out there also want to get connected, I have a MySpace page for Little Middle Biggle now. Just go to.
Do you actually?
No, I was gonna say
okay.
hashtag Little Middle Biggle, but when did hashtags even come around?
Oh, that was way after MySpace. Okay. I think. I don't know, actually.
Didn't like Mozart make them, and it means like a note goes up a half step?
Oh, Andrew.
That's a different thing.
C hashtag. Hey, would you please play a C hashtag?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh man. Great.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the theme of this so far has been less phones is good.
Yeah. Also, okay, another thing that I would advocate for, Noah, is one, I would second Andrew's statement of deleting all the news apps off of your phone, because
actually I don't have any news apps on my phone.
Oh, okay. Then where do you doom scroll?
I mean, it was like I at this point it's pretty much, I mean, this is a really weird place to occasionally read an article, but like the New York Times and Washington Post and such have like accounts on Snapchat, and they'll just have a story that's just like an article.
Gotcha.
And it'll just be like one of the articles on there. That's probably where I'll end up falling into doom scrolling now. But like at one point it was like I briefly actually like looked at the Facebook feed and was just grossed out by people.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then like, I mean, I don't know. That was about the most I've ever sat and looked at social media, and it went on for like 2 weeks, and I was like, this is gross. And so I just stopped doing that, and the stopping doom scrolling kind of became part of it, because it's, especially on something like Snapchat or any other app with endless scrolling, you can just keep on scrolling. And even if you like go to the news article, once you're done with it, you like swipe to the next thing and it brings up just another of them.
Yeah.
Like it's just an endless supply. But yeah, now I pretty much avoid most of that now.
The stories are so meant for the people scrolling through Snapchat who have the attention span of a goldfish that they don't give you the full news. They just give you like a little bit of the news and then whatever perspective they want you to take. The exception to this is the Washington Post, though, because they actually have like really long, well done stories. But like I see typos and just gaps in thought in a lot of those news stories, and it's just
they're not always that good. You know, I think probably my favorite place. Like, I am just not at all up to date on world news most of the time.
Tell me about it.
Especially now without like interacting with a bunch of people all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think my favorite place to just get like a small distilled like idea of some of the things going on in the world is the Philip DeFranco show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like it's always just super like well researched, and they just bring up, you know, points of view from all different sides of an issue, and then like it just feels like, oh, okay, this, you know, there's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff, but like I feel like educated, not polarized after watching it.
Yeah. Last thing that I'm going to advocate for is the Screen Time app, which is like pre-installed on all iPhones now, which I think is great. But
where like it counts your screen time after each week?
Yeah, and also it limits, you can put in limits for different apps. So I first heard John Green talk about this, and I was like, oh my gosh, what an old man thing to do. But I put it on for just like a few apps. Like Instagram, I now have a 1 minute limit per day, and it is astounding. I can get through all of the new posts that I care about in Instagram in less than a minute every single day without fail. I've never gotten to that end of that minute and been like, oh man, but you know, I didn't get through all the posts that I want to see. Like, that's enough. But before then, I was so doom scrolly. I would like, because for whatever, for obvious reasons, I guess, the Instagram algorithm, whenever I went on to like the search panel, it would bring up all like the suggested feeds and stuff, and it was all like bodybuilders and stuff. And so I would go in there with the idea of searching someone, like an old friend or something, and then I would just see like all these super awesome physique athletes, and I would just like doom scroll through those, just being like, wow, yep, never gonna have that body. Oof, wow, yep, never have those abs. And and so having that 60-second limit is
that's an awesome idea,
a life changer.
Yeah. You know what? Just one other thing like that is a little bit less direct, I guess, but just another thing to advocate for is just not having the habit of when you open your phone, you go to certain apps. Like it's like whenever, you know, you walk into a room and you forget what you're doing, when you open your phone, like a lot of times, I mean, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I'll like open my phone planning to respond to a text or check my email or check the weather, and like just muscle memory will like end up going to, you know, like Instagram or Snapchat or something.
Yeah.
And it's never been the same. Like for a while I had Pinterest, and that was a disaster. Like every time I open my phone, I just open up, because it's just like, you know, 1,000 cool projects and ideas, and it figures out everything that I'm interested in. It's like, whoa. And so I would just open my phone and automatically end up in Pinterest for like 30 minutes just looking at like rock climbing and, you know, woodworking stuff. And
that's how Reddit was for me.
Nice. Yeah. I've never fallen into that one as much.
Yeah, I ever go into Reddit for like very specific things. Like I'll search like best Norwegian lessons on YouTube, and then Reddit, and I'll put that in Google, and then there are all these Reddit threads that come up. Yeah. Anyway, what are you gonna say, Noah?
Oh, just breaking the habit of that. Like not even having an app that you just automatically go to, which is hard to do. But like opening up your phone and just like getting this habit of always, when you get to the home screen, you pause and you figure out what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Which is weird. But like no matter what app you automatically go into, even if it's like your text messages or something, you just waste time there.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
So I did this accidentally, but I now realize it's a very good combatant to that, is rearranging your apps. Because I'll open my phone and, like, I realize now I would just, like, muscle memory click on something, but then it would go to, like, the Compass app. Yeah.
That's a cool idea. Yeah.
Well, Andrew, what are your little changes that you've made, aside from rearranging your apps?
Well, I've been listening to you guys' conversations. I've only thought of one, which is the Navy showering, Joshua.
Hey.
Ooh.
Because not only are you using less water, but I also feel like I clean myself way better because I'm not trying to, like, race against the water hitting that part of my body that I am washing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
It's awesome.
We're going to change the world with this Navy showering. The three of us will save, like, a whole swimming pool worth of water over our whole lifetimes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Olympic size.
Nice. Anything else for either of you guys?
Actually, just random thought. Well, while we're talking about saving water and stuff, have you guys seen any of those products that are like, it's like a tablet that you put in a soap canister and just fill the soap canister with water and it makes soap, like dry. I don't know how, that was a horrible way of describing that. Let me try that again. You guys know those products where you have a soap canister that you just fill with water and then just drop a tablet in, and you never have to, like, throw away the actual plastic bottle.
No,
like,
but
you just reuse the soap bottle over and over.
I've seen that with toothpaste.
Or toothpaste, yeah, same idea. Or like laundry detergent.
Yeah, it's from like the zero waste movement.
Yeah, I've I mean, as just speaking of going through Instagram and stuff, I clicked on something for bamboo toilet paper the other day, and now I'm just getting inundated. Like, every time I open anything, I'm just getting ads for, would you like to, wipe your sphincter with this or that, or...
Wait. They have bamboo toilet paper?
They do.
Oh my gosh.
It's actually really cool. It's really soft and feels really nice, and also is like, way more sustainable. And the company that I saw that was doing it, they they're basically like trying to plant lots of trees and donate to national parks and stuff for for each box that's sold. So not only are they using bamboo that's more sustainable, but they're also like trying to actively regrow forests and stuff.
Dude,
that sounds awesome.
That is all I want for Christmas.
Is bamboo toilet paper?
Yes.
Okay. Well, do you guys want to try out bamboo toilet paper? I think that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I'll wipe my butt with it if you'll wipe your butt with it.
I have
absolutely.
I have already put that in the show notes because in my editing notes, because I'm so not going to forget that. Oh my gosh. Yes, bamboo toilet paper.
Sweet.
They actually
I'm
make
excited to try it.
Hello Kitty toilet paper. Like,
really?
Toilet paper with Hello Kitty's face printed on it. It's like $10 a roll though.
That sounds really strange.
Yep. That's I don't want to share how I know that. Andrew, Noah. Oh, I'm all flustered. Noah, would you take us away with the big ol' question, please?
Sure. Okay. So this is one that I was like a little bit between whether it was a middle question or a big ol' question. We'll do it as a big ol' question, but if your answers aren't just earth shaking, then that's totally fine.
Okay.
So the question is, what is the hardest thing that you've ever done? And I'll preface this with saying it can be a single event, or it can be like a thing that you did for a while, or like a part of your life or something.
Okay. Noah, what's yours?
Mine, I think I'd have to think about a single event, but the hardest thing I've ever done was that summer, 2017 or something like that, where I was doing the double course load of summer courses and also working night shifts and also taking over as chief scribe. And I would just like, you know, like go work overnights, try and get my homework done at some point between patients, and then, you know, go out to the parking lot and like sleep for 90 minutes and then drive to the campus and, you know, do class and then like take an afternoon, you know, lunch and nap and another parking lot, or every once in a while I'd like make it home and shower and grab a little bit of food and then go to more class and then like immediately go to work after that.
Yeah.
And just doing that like, you know, 7 days a week for months. That was like, I mean, not that PA school is easy, but it's easy compared to that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
But yeah, just even like, yeah, it was just like the constant barrage of work, which also I realize when you think of the hardest thing you've ever done, sometimes people think of like putting their dog down or something. And I'm sure there's a good answer for something like that, but the first thing that comes to my mind for the most difficult thing I've ever done is absolutely like those couple of months. Like that was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, Andrew?
I have nothing that compares to that. Nothing really comes to mind.
It doesn't have to be related at all. Like that's probably not even the kind of thing that most people would think of. And I'm sure like there's a good answer somewhere in my memory banks too. But yeah, it can be completely different.
I hope that mentally hard is also a potential hard criteria that this is graded on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
It can be physically, it can be like, you know, it can, yeah, physically, mentally, organizationally, whatever.
Okay.
Emotionally.
I don't
know. I figured Noah's was pretty mentally hard.
It was a little bit, but it was like kind of nice too, because I felt like I got a huge amount done and was getting a step closer to actually, you know, having a career that I wanted to have and all that.
Yeah. Okay, so Andrew, what is it for you? Is it
I don't know. I'm thinking.
Okay.
No, my life is just very free of hardship.
I'm so glad that you think that. Not that I don't think that.
I'm okay with that, but
yeah. Okay, I can go first then, if you would prefer.
Okay.
Okay, so I can think of 3 or maybe 4 things. So, and none of them, I will say from the get-go, I do not think any of them compare either in intensity or duration to Noah's crazy summer of doing literally everything. Because, like, for those who don't know, he, like, literally slept in his car. He had an apartment, but he, like, slept in his car because he did not have time to go home, like, between classes and work and classes again. And
well, I mean, I could have made it home. It's just like I would have had about half the sleep time if I'd taken that time to drive home.
That like 30-minute commute would have cut his sleep time in half. So anyway, the first, I'll go in chronological order. So the first thing that I can think of is living with Gus, my freshman year roommate. Yeah, that
Gus,
was.
If you're listening, you're a duty head.
Okay. I was gonna.
Sorry, go
ahead. So that was, of course, very difficult emotionally because I felt kind of like not welcome in the only place on that college campus that was designated as my home. And and you know, that college campus was also 500 miles away from my actual home. So like once that went out the window, it was like, well, I am 500 miles away from anywhere where I can not feel like a piece of trash. That was really hard. And next in order chronologically would be breaking up with Sarah, because it like, even though at that point in the relationship, I had been telling myself mentally, like every morning, I would say on my to-do list today, I'm going to break up with Sarah, like for months.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was like this needs to end.
No, no. I guess I did a good job of dissembling. But anyway, so I know that I told Andrew about that, but yes. So that was really hard because no matter how ready you are to just have someone out of your life, it is incredibly hard to break a relationship of over 3 years when the other person does not want it to happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not only in the logistical way of, like, you have to disentangle your lives, but also just in the way of you feel like their grief is a reflection on your own scumminess. And that is a really hard thing to have to deal with. Or at least it was for me. So, next in chronological order, I think running the marathon was not that hard at all. Not because I'm an incredible athlete or anything, but because I loved doing it so much. I loved training for it, and I loved the experience of being there with you guys and with Dad. So, yeah, that does not factor into my list. Next hardest thing I've done...
Okay, I would like to interject and say you are an incredible athlete. You may not have the abs that your Instagram tells you need, but, like, you ran a marathon as fast as Noah ran a half marathon.
Yeah. And, like, for reference, I'm not horribly unfit.
Noah.
So.
You are, as the kids say, swole. But anyway, so next hard thing on my list is moving to Spain for a month. Because, like, I didn't, like, go to Spain, like, on a vacation. At least it didn't feel like that, even though it really kind of was a vacation where I also got an English teaching certification. It felt like I was moving there because when I got there, I wasn't living in, like, a hotel. I was, like, living in an apartment, and I had to, like, find a gym and a grocery store and a pharmacy and, like, the most efficient way to walk to work and stuff. And, you know, interacting with people who were all speaking a different language from me, a lot of them not speaking Spanish, and which is, you know, the only other language I know. And then also just, like, realizing that now, instead of being 500 miles away from anywhere that I could, like, call home, I was now an ocean away. And that was a real challenge just in having to find my own home. After having had the experience in college of, like, feeling like I had none, I had to get really active about, like, really intentionally trying to find and seek out places where I enjoyed being and where I felt like I could enjoy myself. Yeah. And then the last thing is finishing my first book, or, you know, my first manuscript, because it's not published yet. But just because that felt like saying goodbye to 8 people, you know, characters, but like 8 really good friends that I had been getting to know for years. And when I wrote the last paragraph, it was like, wow, you know, I'm going to see these guys again, quote unquote, see them when I edit this, but it's never going to be that same discovery feeling of, like, oh wow, I suddenly connect with you on so much of a deeper level. It's all just going to be sort of filling in the gaps of their personality, or, like, tweaking little bits here and there. It will be focused more on the structure instead of them. So I've rambled on for way too long. Andrew, would you please take us away?
That last one was especially cool.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I think your authorship is awesome and incredible that you have the feelings that, like, we've been hearing authors like J.K. Rowling and John Green talk about for years and years.
Yeah. Also, you were saying that those things were not nearly as hard as mine. I mean, mine was just kind of like a mega grind, like bear through it kind of thing, you know? Like find a way to organize the time, find a way to like power through, and like you just keep on going. But yours were like, you know, like somewhat more challenging on an emotional level, and like going to a whole new country and figuring out how to exist there, like not just visit and live off, you know, being in a resort, but like actually live there for a month. That's in some ways harder than like having a good support system and like, you know, the people around that I enjoy and places I can feel comfortable, and just like adding a whole bunch of stuff to do. So yeah. Anyways, yeah.
Well, thanks.
It's cool.
Yes.
Different types of difficulty.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, go for it, Andrew.
Okay, well, pretty much the same as you and Sarah. Very much sucked breaking up with Libby, because I was just like, yes, this is exactly what I want, but knowing this is not what she wants, and I am about to like turn her life upside down.
Yeah.
That sucked. And then like the fallout of it, having to balance like still being friendly at school and the days when she was sad, and I'm just like, well, can't help you there.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm really happy with this
sucky
decision. Yeah.
Yeah. So these both have to do with my senior year, but then also having the slow burn of after spring break being like, oh, I am not going back to school, and like each day I would remember something that I was not going to get to experience as part of my senior year that I had seen the seniors before me experience, and it was so much a thing to look forward to. But
just kind of felt like
that's
you missed
the
out
mega
on
suck.
some cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Much less bad than you guys.
No, I mean, just a different kind of bad. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I once heard someone say something that I thought was really kind of insightful. Like, just because they are first world problems does not mean they are problems. You know, like, any suffering is still suffering. It doesn't matter. Like, yes, I totally want to do everything in my power to make it so that the overall level of suffering is lower for everyone in the world. And the easiest way I see to do that is to, you know, press on the peaks of suffering that are highest up, you know, and the places where first world problems seem like, you know, stereotypical first world problems. But that doesn't mean that the smaller peaks aren't still mountains to climb.
Thank you for saying that, because I had heard that too, but I didn't want to sound like, you know, feel bad for me.
No, I don't think that. Well, yeah, that's a good way to put that. Well put, Joshua.
Thanks.
Yes.
This isn't a podcast about mixed metaphors. Yes, it is actually, because of how many I use. But anyway, does anyone have any final thoughts?
Not for me.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, then in that case, I will go ahead and roll the credits. This podcast is... Oh, I have to pull up the Google Doc. I thought I've got it by memory, guys. I've got it by memory. No. This podcast is created by the three of us, written by none of us, and edited and produced by me, Joshua. Hopefully it's also listened to and enjoyed by you, but no pressure, Harry. So join us next time as we unravel more of the world's big questions, or maybe just get tangled up in them. We'll see how things go when we get there. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or ideas on how we could make this podcast better, send us a message at littlemiddlebiggle@myspace.com. Just kidding. littlemiddlebiggle@outlook.com. Love, thanks, and T-Rex hugs from all of us. We couldn't have done this without you. Say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.